It is Men on Scandal, back again to recap the latest episode of Scandal. I'm Tony Scott. That's Mark Clark. That's Troy Johnson. This episode was called The Lawn Chair. And I got to say that if Courtney B. Vance doesn't get an Emmy nomination for this, then this is a travesty. Because this one-off performance was everything. As far as I'm concerned, I think Courtney was incredible in this episode, man.
There was some very good acting all the way around.
Yeah.
Which of course we'll get into later. But you know, it's kind of interesting. Things have changed, I would imagine, when it comes to act. This is a little bit off the mark, but you know, he's on the show on NBC where he plays the first husband. So, and now he's on a one-off, like you said, of Scandal. That's interesting. I mean, you don't really see that very often. If somebody's locked into a show, they're there for the season, and
right.
Okay, then they may do something off season. It's just interesting to see that.
Yeah, that's true.
Did a great job.
I have to admit that this may be my first episode where I get hate mail. Probably.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Well. We start out, Olivia is on the phone with Jake, and she says she's resting. She's at home in bed. She's in a limo. Yes. And I think Jake's trying to talk himself into a booty call, but, you know, she said, I'm tired. Oh, I'm so tired, and all this stuff like that. So, but, you know.
You can hear all that damn traffic. Yeah. You can hear the traffic of Washington, D.C.
Right.
Outside my window.
Right.
You can hear all that, huh?
She's got them soundproof windows, man, in that limo, man.
She also had that annoyed look on her face, like...
Yeah.
I feel sorry for Jake, but I will give him props. With all that he knows, he easily could just be a stalker with her.
Yeah.
So he lets her go ahead and lie to him, and it reminds you of like a woman who just keeps getting just run over. She just is like, yeah, okay, you're faithful, you're at home, you love me, whatever.
Right. Okay. Well,
I'm just checking in for another round to get punched in the face. But
So the plot of last night's episode was a cop shoots a black kid, which is a hot button issue right now in our country. And Courtney B. Vance plays the father, Mr. Clarence Parker, and he shows up with a shotgun with his son laying dead in the street. A lot of similarities of what happened in Ferguson.
Yeah.
You know, but Olivia Pope tells Clarence that she can get the Attorney General down here to investigate. And he said, you know, he's got this look like, make it happen, you know? Like, let's make it happen, man, you know?
Attention.
Yeah, and then she calls David, who is the Attorney General, and he's like, hell no, I ain't going down I ain't going down there. And he hangs up on her. I mean, he just hangs, he's like, you know, no. I'm not, and I guess his message was, I'm not at your beck and call. I'm the Attorney General. I don't work for you.
And let me say, what is I'm trying to think, there it is. On this episode, guys, I'm going to be the contrarian.
Not the contrarian.
I think I got to tell you, Olivia in a fantasy I can handle. I can't handle Olivia in a real storyline.
No.
It took me a lot to get in because, again, I love the show, and I love the way, you know, when you get to it, Tony, she got called out on this episode.
Yes, she did.
But it was a lot to me. It was hard for me to take Olivia and interject her into what's really going on in the world, because such a self-absorbed person is kind of like, look, you know, it was hard for me. I must admit, and even to be honest with Courtney Vance's character, the way he acted at first, he pulled it was like he was in Fences on Broadway to me. You know what I mean?
Really?
Yeah, because he wasn't a uneducated man. He wasn't from the country, but he was very he was very and I was
very
like,
what?
Yeah, you cut out. He was very what? You cut out.
Moses Gunn.
Oh, okay. Moses Gunn on Gunsmoke.
Damn.
Man, you went deep on that one, man.
That's the furthest we've ever gone.
So why is Olivia Pope unbelievable in handling like something that's very relatable these days in the United States? Is it because her character's over the top?
But that's and just before you answer that, Mark, that's the premise of her character in the first place. Now, she's been ratchet and wilding out for the majority of these seasons, but it was all based on the fact that she was able to make things happen in real life situations.
But in the political world, though, mostly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I guess it is, Tony and Troy. You know, like to be bossing. You know, well, you get hired by the police force, and then all of a sudden, you know, talking to people, hey, stand down. I was like, okay, but let me stop there though, because again, it is, you know, it is make believe, and I don't want to be I didn't want to be a contrarian, but I had to at least get it out.
Right.
I'll leave it at that. You know what I'm saying? Because for the whole of the show, at the end, they brought me in, but at first I was kind of like halfway through. To be honest, I was kind of like, you know, but hey, you know, that happens. But I didn't want to lie. I didn't want to lie about it, but I didn't want to.
I got you. I can respect that. So to step away from that for a second, in the Oval Office, there's talk in there about replacing the VP. They got to replace Andrew Nichols because, you know, he had that stroke that Huck gave him. and the line in that meeting was, no one will believe the VP tried to overthrow the government now that he's a pumpkin. I was like, damn.
Ouch.
But as it turns out, the 25th Amendment allows President Fitzgerald or any president on the show to pick a new VP. And Fitz does make the comment later that he's tired of his VPs trying to overthrow him. I forgot about Sally. I forgot all about Sally. That was like a lifetime ago.
Yeah.
Well, you know what, Tony? Some people don't like the way Sally rides.
And yet, some people do. So...
Sally actually walks in that song. Ride, Sally, ride is another song.
Oh, damn. Sorry, you're right, Troy. Damn, this R&B.
It had me a gun smoke, though.
Yeah.
His gun woke up from death and was like, hey.
Hey.
His nose was a flame.
Community activist Marcus Walker is in the house down there where the shooting took place, and he brings a lawn chair for Mr. Parker to sit in. And Olivia's trying to work her magic, but Marcus kind of calls her out. He calls her out, you know. And Mr. Parker puts the chair over his son's dead body and then sits in it, which I thought was like, man, ain't nobody. They're never gonna get that young man off the street now. I mean, in my mind, I was like, he's been there a while already. But now, you know, with him sitting there in that shotgun, ain't nobody messing with him, man.
I'm not going anywhere. I'm here for the long haul.
Yeah. So Olivia tells you know, OPA, which is basically, you know, Huck and Quinn, to investigate all the players in this whole thing. You know, and while this is going on, Marvin Gaye's playing in the background. Good choice, man. Good choice. Can never go wrong with Marvin in one of those social songs from the What's Going On album, man. You know?
My only beef with the community was that chant was too damn long, but they were on top of it.
They picked up on it. It was deep, man. It's Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
The hell's going on?
Hey, man, a lot of those people went to Howard. They can follow along in a long chain.
Well.
They made hell no we won't go.
The remix.
This was a dissertation.
Man, Olivia Pope interviews the cop that shot young Brandon Parker. And, you know, he's like, you know, I can't imagine how Mr. Parker feels. And he's got, you know, he seems to be he feels very bad about what happened. But he says that what happened, it happened, you know. And, you know.
Partner backed him up.
Yep, partner backed him up, man, you know. Meanwhile, Olivia and Marcus, the activists, are talking. And they want the same thing, but they got different ways about getting it. And he points out that, you know what, he basically tells Olivia, you know, you don't belong here because you can't relate to what's going on here. You're over there. You're at 1600 Pennsylvania. That's your world. This is our world. You know nothing about this. And he does tell her your black card's not getting validated today.
Zing.
Which, you know, and I was wondering if they were going to go there or not, to be honest, man, because, I mean, he spoke true. Yeah, what he said was absolutely true. That's not her world, at least not to this point that we've ever seen. Everything has always been politically based, high-profile cases. That's what she does.
Yeah. And this started with her calling somebody else out like she always does.
Mm-hmm.
And, she said, you're trying to grandstand this situation, Marcus. You're trying to push an agenda while a father is trying to grieve his son.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when he cracked back on her.
Right.
So, finally, a lot of people, I think, wanted to see Olivia get checked at some point in the last, I don't know how many years we've had this show on. They've been waiting for it. She got checked. Not the strongest check, but it was a good check. It was a good one.
Right.
And you know what? And that's what, again, guys, that's why I'm done with my negative stuff, because that's what I love about the show. We kind of had a chance to have this conversation that we never have, and these kind of conversations that we never have in a fantasy world, but it's real. Number 3, Olivia's black card is so far behind her American Express black card that the black card don't even know who he is. He's
right.
like, I'm surrounded by black cards, but they got American Express on them. when he was like, what is that, Prada? She was like, no, Gucci. If you must know.
Yeah.
You're going to talk about my bag. Get it right.
Right. So the police chief wants to go in. He wants to just squash this, like Ferguson police. Wants to go in and just crush. But they weren't able to do that either. But Olivia tells him not to.
And the reason why he wanted to go in was because Marcus and his crew were able to identify the shooter, the officer's name. Yeah, he leaked it.
Marcus leaked it.
Yeah, he leaked the name.
And Olivia says that was low. And he says, so was shooting an unarmed kid.
Number one, that wasn't low. That's what you do. I mean, you're trying to find out what happened, right? And then to me, back to the grandstand comment from Olivia, that comment, that is used by the right wing, the right media, and has been used all the time, where they characterize the community guy as trying to grandstand when real stuff is going on. They accuse the civil rights movement people of doing that, of Martin Luther King of doing that. Here we were swinging from trees, and people are like, you're just trying to get, what are you talking about? These are real facts. These are real things that are going on. And even, yes, these community activists sometimes have big egos, and yes, maybe they do want some of the limelight, but the fact is there are real issues that are going on.
Sure.
And so again, I love the fact that they kind of did have that point counterpoint.
Yeah. One of the things I love about this show is they'll cut to a different scene, and you're like, what the hell is this? What is this? So they cut to Melly's hosting some kind of thing. So I don't know what it is, but this one little senator, Senator Toady Fields, is like, she's like trying to push her vaccination agenda, which, okay, I'm for that. But I mean, where did this come from, right? Well, I mean, what's the purpose of this? Of course, we'll find out later. But I love that about that, because they should just throw something in the middle. You're like, how does this even fit what's going on, right? But then it comes together, and I really like the way she lays the show out like that. So the governor of New Mexico shows up on a video on social media that's about basically the message is everyone matters. Not Black Lives Matter, not Brown Lives, everyone matters. Which, okay. And she's to the point where now, they're thinking about maybe her as the vice president.
Man, I had all kinds of thoughts.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Todd. Go ahead.
I was going to say, Cyrus is like, yo, this is the one.
Yeah.
He's sold because she made such a strong argument. And Fitz is like, wait a minute.
Yo, I'm gonna say she's a bad chick.
She was.
It was funny because I watched the show. At that point, I had to take a break. But in my mind, I had all kinds of scenarios like, yo, new vice president, he falls in love with her, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
No, that did not happen.
No. Mr. Parker, meanwhile, is still, sitting over his son's body. And he tells Olivia Brandon's story, what Brandon's plans were, and how he raised him by himself, and the whole thing. And he, in the end, tells Olivia, "You and I both know that this only ends with me dead or locked up." Which, for some reason, the way Courtney delivered that line, it moved me. I don't know about you guys, but I was like, "Wow,
powerful,
very powerful." So,
well, and sadly, he would have been dead. It would have taken exactly a minute and a half. Black man, shotgun, dead.
Yeah.
a chair in his hand.
Yeah.
And then the rest would have been him laying on top of his son's body.
Oh man. So while talking to Quinn on the phone, Olivia notices, SWAT, they're gearing up, man. They're gearing up. They're putting on their vests. They're locking and loading the rifles, and she says, I quit, and she joins the protesters, and then she starts with her, chanting with the crowd behind the line.
I think her hairstyle and her actions confirm that Olivia is part Native American, because when that wind blows, and you see Olivia do that. What the hell is going on? Oh, no. I know what they're doing. Her hunches are right on.
Man. So back in the White House, man, Melly isn't happy about this possible New Mexico governor as the VP, because she wants somebody who would be she wants the VP to be somebody who wouldn't be electable as president, because Melly has plans to be president, and Fitz knows that, and they have a deal.
What happened to my term?
What happened to my turn, right?
With my turn.
Yeah. So, and Fitz just looks at her, and I guess that look on his face like, you're right, we didn't make that deal. So we're going to have to go somewhere else. Meantime, Olivia goes to David's office, and she gives him the race speech. The justice for people who look like you, not for people who look like me. And she also tells him about her kidnapping experience, where every day, every minute while she was kidnapped, she thought she was going to die. And she ties it into the situation that's going on there. That's how black folks feel with the police. Anytime they're with the police, they feel like they're going to die. You got to understand that. And I guess it made inroads, because he says, what do you need? She says, I need a subpoena for this video, this surveillance video that was out. And the video shows what happened. Because the police say that Brandon Parker had a knife. And Mr. Parker is saying all along, my son didn't carry a knife. He doesn't carry a knife. He's never carried a knife. So Mr. Parker has to roll his son over to see if there's a knife. And they roll him over, and there is a knife. There is a knife. So, for a lot of people, it's like, okay, open and shut then, right? But the video, Olivia walks away from that once the knife is shown. She's about to pee in her pants. She's so scared. I think she's traumatized based on what she just went through, and then seeing something like this and what appears to be, a justified shooting based on the fact that there was a knife under this young man's body. But we'll find out really that wasn't really what would happen. Fitz is watching this on TV. Fitz wants to say something, but Cyrus tells him you can't say anything. It's a local matter. This isn't your deal. Let this hash itself out. Let this play out before you say anything. And when the New Mexico governor made her video, it didn't really help to keep Fitz quiet, because I think that made him want to speak even more, because the governor of New Mexico can say this. How come I can't say this and I run all 50 states? Why can't I say something? She just for the weekend, right?
Olivia was so shook, her $1,500 pair of gloves was shaking so much she had to grab her $2,500 coat.
Hold on.
Oh, hi.
I wasn't sure about that handshake, and that was like, it was a little overdone.
Was the direction too strong, Troy?
It was
more handshake.
See, I thought it was the right amount. You guys are like, she lost control of it or something, right?
Well, I mean, does your hand shake like this?
Well, I don't know. I haven't been kidnapped for a month and auctioned off, and then have to come handle this situation. So, and understand, she got called out by the police chief to come and help him deal with this. That was the thing at the beginning. So, But apparently there was another kid that was arrested for something else with the knife. We find out from the police. I mean, Huck noticed a shadow in the back seat of the squad car. He was like, well, who's that guy? So they did some looking around, and I think that's what they found out, right?
But Tony, well, no, actually it was Jake that first noticed something was up. But I like how Jake, after getting dissed by Olivia, hey, wait a minute, Olivia, what's she doing? And then they showed the video, and he was like, yo, run that back.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Like,
yeah, you're right.
Normally they're pretty observant, but this day Jake was more observant.
Right.
For a change.
So they go back and question this police officer, and the cop snapped, man. And I think that particular soliloquy was something that I think That was interesting how that was written and how what he said, because I could see Darren Wilson, the cop that killed Michael Brown in Ferguson. I could see him saying something like that. Basically, what he said was that Brandon's dead because he didn't show respect to police. That's basically what he said, right?
Right.
You know?
Among other things.
Among other things, but that was the bottom line. I mean, he was saying...
He talked about the murder rate. He said, it's not us coming in and killing people. It's black people overwhelmingly killing each other. Them people, I think is how he put it. Yeah, he said those people. He said them people.
Yeah.
He pointed to a picture of Martin Luther King. Anything he held a sign all black. He had a black crayon. He pointed it out in the room.
Yeah.
I like how Olivia.
He went shopping on Black Friday. Everything black.
He watched the Blacklist. He did everything. He was like, he watched Blackish.
I like how Olivia's face. She rarely gives you the sister. Oh hell! Oh no, you didn't. You don't give me that face. She gives you the pained face. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think that's important. I think it's like it's important because just like when the Attorney General was going to help her, Olivia has this gift that white people want to help her. You know, like when they see that pained face, they want to help Olivia.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sadly, that does not exist in the real world.
No.
Black folks. But I think it's interesting because I mean that's what drives the whole show.
Right.
And it isn't that soliloquy, Tony, like you said, you really could imagine Darren Wilson having that conversation. And the other thing about being a black male that is so real, be it at work or whatever situation, the fact that you just happen to be a black male makes you already intimidating or people uncomfortable. Or again, a white kid reaching into his pocket doesn't seem as intimidating as a black kid doing it. And the sad part about it is, I think across the board, the image of the black male is so negative that even black men, if a young man reaches into something, is probably going to take a pause. And that's deep, man. That's frightening. That's deep. That's sad. You know?
Well, you know what? I will say this though. When they showed the video of Brandon Parker reaching into his coat for a receipt for the phone that he had, it did look like he was coming out with something, because he was very aggressive when he went in there, right? He did. I mean, it was, to me, I would have stopped Brandon if I would have caught him and said, open your coat, or if it was in his pocket, go very slow, man. go very slow, whatever you're going to get, because if I see anything shiny, I'm going to shoot your ass, right? I mean something. But the cop just stood there and let him go in his pocket in a very aggressive manner, and he shouldn't have done that. Now, having said that, I'm not a police officer. I know a lot of what they do is a split second, is a judgment decision. So, and this is television.
When you look, and we can't see outside the scene, but when you look at how it was depicted, they were extremely close to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 5, 6, maybe 8 feet from each other.
Yeah.
And they, in a what looked like an animated argument was going on, animated conversation, and the guy reaches in a situation where when you see, 2 minutes on World Star Hip Hop, you can see people, sneaking folks with, with a punch, or there's so much you can do to try to distract somebody.
Right.
The times are changing. People are not necessarily just answering to a order that's given, even by a police officer.
Right. That's true.
Times have changed, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I was just at a high school today, and you're right, man. I mean, the lines are so fuzzy, and especially in a society where, if in fact you fear that young person, and you happen to also have a weapon, it just creates a terrible situation.
But the whole dynamic with this police officer on Scandal, the one who shot Brandon Parker, it was like, when Olivia Pope talked to him the first time, and he was talking about how bad he felt, and he explained about how he prides himself on getting to know the community in which he works and all that kind of stuff. But then when the truth comes out and he gives us the speech basically saying that Brandon died because he didn't respect the badge, you know, and it was like the whole dynamic of, you know, at the beginning, this is what happened. But then when they found out the truth, and he just lashes out with the truth about how he feels, you know.
Defiance.
Yeah. I come into these people's community. I come here to protect these people. I protect these people. I put my life on the line. They're shooting at each other. We're not shooting them, and yet, you know, I get no respect. You know, and it was like, wow, just like, wow, that was amazing dialogue.
I want to give that actor props because I mean he pulled that off, and the way it was written seamlessly wove together a lot of arguments that we've seen and heard in the news lately.
Right.
Not only by maybe some folks who happen to be in the police community, but even some folks who are in support of police officers, and they've, you know, you've seen some of these pundits rattle off some of these same kind of statements about the condition of a specific community, and it's their fault, and they're not, you know, these officers are just trying to protect and serve. That was really deep.
Yeah,
the way that came across.
And you know what? I had mentioned earlier, I just left a high school, guys, where we're doing a program where kids do music in schools, right? And they have these police officers, happen to be African-American police officers for schools that's predominantly African-American, right? And they're laughing and rapping and dancing with the kids. They understand the kids because they are the kids. They grew up in Brooklyn. You know what I mean? They grew up in Harlem. And so it is interesting. It just seems common sense-wise, that kind of officer who does that kind of stuff on the street is not afraid and is not as unsure about their activities as somebody who is coming in from 40 miles out. And I see the thing that kills me in Harlem and Brooklyn and all these regentrified areas, it seems like as soon as the gentrification comes in, now you see all these white cops who are not from there. Versus if they had people who are from there, it's just a different interaction. Because you know what I mean? And it just puzzles me because it bothers me because it always feels like something's about to jump off based on you not understanding, you the police officer, really not understanding the language, the body language, how these kids interact, the you know what I mean? All these factors.
Yeah, but Mark, the other side of that would be, but then if we don't put these white officers in these situations to interact, how are they going to learn? How are they going to get to know the community?
They have to be trained, Tony. It's almost
okay. Well, I mean, that's what I'm asking. How do you fix that?
The training is effective. You know, I'm from Springfield. It's so funny. I'm from Springfield, Illinois, right? And so today, one of the teachers, as we wrapped up, his name was, let's say his first name was Franz, or Francais Flonflonf, whatever.
Flonflonf.
And I said, and my coworker, who's Haitian, I said, where are you from? Because the name was French. And he said, and he didn't even say he was from. My coworker said, if you can always tell people we're not from New York, because if you don't have at least one Haitian friend, you're not from New York. Right? That was the joke. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That right there. That's something that people from New York know that. People from New York, if you're not from it, you don't understand it, you don't see those little subtleties, and these little subtleties are getting people killed on the streets.
Right.
So that training, Tony, would entail that type of information. But of course, we know these training systems, they're just not that great.
Right.
But, and even beyond that, I mean, but you know, we should talk about the larger, you know, conversation around this episode because it is so unique to Scandal, and what an appropriate time for this particular episode to run when you have decisions by, you know, the Justice Department coming down, when you have the anniversary of Selma on the way. Some people tuned in, and I was kind of looking at the chatter on social media. It's interesting. We've talked about this on Men on Everything and before, how some people are like, oh, man, this is a little too much for me. Some people even thought this was disrespectful to the Michael Brown situation. When do you have a conversation about these things? Well, other people were overwhelmed and could really feel they felt it personally. They felt an emotional, feel to what Clarence, the character, was going through. It was just really interesting to see how people reacted to the gamut of reactions to this particular episode.
Yeah.
But the conversations need to happen, like Mark was saying, and to piggyback on what he was saying, the training helps, but even better would be police officers that come from those communities. And, when you think about Ferguson, that certainly wasn't the case. That's something that they may need to improve on. All these young people, they're looking for opportunities to learn and grow. I mean, the police department is just one of many ways, and it could really be helpful in the long run.
Right. That's a good point. That's a good point. So it turns out Officer Jeffrey Newton was arrested for altering evidence, perjury, and filing a false police report, but they mentioned nothing about murder or killing Brandon Parker. There was no mention of being charged with killing anybody. Mm-hmm. Was it? I noticed that. I was like, well, where's the murder charge? I mean, clearly he shot him in cold blood. So why isn't there a murder charge? But
even on a TV show, the standard is too high.
I guess so. So meanwhile, the Senator Susan, the little short one, the one who had the vaccination agenda, she apparently is the one Melly has chosen to be the vice president because she's not electable on any level at all. So they bring her in. And she says, I don't want to be the vice president. I don't want to be the vice president. Why would y'all? This is my first term. Why the hell would you pick me? I just got here, And she, she doesn't want to be the subject comes up, well, something happens to the president. Then you'll be president. I don't want to be president. So to me, it's like to make her the vice president would be the biggest joke, I think, in the history of political TV drama.
However, Tony,
yeah.
As I was analyzing the situation, in her answers, while naive and definitely fresh fresh from her home state into the halls of Congress, she's not an idiot, and she's been misjudged as an idiot before.
Sure.
And she showed up earlier. That's how she became a senator.
Right.
But she was like, I did come here to actually do something. I'm bringing this vaccination plan to the Senate because it's something that needs to happen. So she's basically just, in my opinion, she's just a raw politician.
Who should not be vice president, though.
Who's thrust into that.
Yeah. But if you, to me, Troy, if you tell the president, I don't want to be vice president, then you got to take her off the list.
Well, that's what he wanted to hear, though.
Yeah.
He's not thinking he's going anywhere. Now, here's what's going to happen, guys. Yeah. Remember, she got elected because of who? Olivia Pope.
Yeah.
And she shined her up to become a senator, so she can whip her into shape.
No, our character's based on Dan Quayle. It took me the whole episode to think of his name. So I was like, what's his name? Dan
Bird.
What is his name?
Walter Pigeon. He's named after a bird. Paul Keat. I don't know. What was his name? Yeah. Well. Anyway. So. But the crazy thing is she starts rambling about the Mr. Parker situation, about Brandon Parker being shot dead in the street, and she starts rambling about losing a child. Can you imagine what that feels like and all that? And then she realizes who she's talking to, a couple who have lost a child. Yes. And then you could just look on her face, told it all. Like, I'm not full. I can't be vice president, man. Come on, man. Look at me. There's only 3 of us in the room when I flubbed up. You know what I'm saying? That was crazy, man. But
Fitz still had that look on his face, like.
Yeah. Well, but his agenda is to find somebody that Melly can beat in the presidential election. So we'll see. But back on the street, though, Mr. Parker puts his gun down now that he knows he's been told what happened. And Olivia, he's ready to be arrested. And Olivia tells him nobody's being arrested tonight, Mr. Parker. And she takes Mr. Parker to the White House to see the president. So somebody pointed out on social media, so she could just pull up anytime she wants to the White House, just take a guest with her, no problem. Well, I kind of think that they were probably summoned to the White House Because Fitz, if you remember, Fitz wanted to say something publicly, and he was told that he can't do it, so he didn't. So I guess he wanted to do something. And they have two things in common, Mr. Parker and Fitz. They both lost young sons to lawmen. Yeah. So they have a lot in common, but that's kind of like how the episode ended. You guys can
breakdown.
Yeah.
Clarence broke down at the end.
So what did I miss? I know I missed something.
No, I think you covered it all, Tony. You covered everything.
Because there was a break during the episode where the TV went out, so I had to oh hell, here we go, right? And then it came back on, but I missed that time frame, so I had to go back and watch it online and stuff and get that one piece. But it's very. This was probably the most, on some levels, the most realistic episode they've ever had.
I would agree with that.
Socially conscious. I mean, it was about what's going on in the world right now. It was on so many levels that way. If people were offended or felt Michael Brown was disrespected, I don't see it. There were a lot of similarities. Don't get me wrong. I see that, but I don't think it was disrespected, and I think it brought this whole police versus the African American community to an audience that, for the most part, didn't want to be bothered with it in real life.
And you're just talking about black people.
So I think it put it in front of a lot of people who didn't want to be bothered with it when it came on the news, when it was a real story with Michael Brown and Ferguson.
It wasn't my favorite, like I mentioned at the top. I don't know if I feel comfortable with putting Olivia Pope in real life situations. I think I like her better as fantasy. But like you guys said, I think it was great the way that these issues were fleshed out. Mm-hmm. And I think, like I said, at the end, so me going into it and halfway in, I was kind of By the end, I was cool because we addressed some things that needed to be addressed.
Right.
And like you said, things that we don't feel comfortable talking about. And I respect that.
Right.
I respect that. And the same thing with, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I agree with you. That's why I was interested by the comments. I knew, some people were like, this is far-fetched to believe. Well, first of all, it's a TV show.
Yeah.
So let's take that off the table. The other thing was, people were like, not believing that this could wrap up in a perfect bow kind of situation. Well, that's what Olivia Pope does every week.
Right.
I mean, look at her hair. Look at her hairstyle. Look at her perfect bow this week.
So it's like, I think Shonda Rhimes, I understand she tweeted out, some people were thinking that this is the end of the season.
Yeah, the season finale, yeah.
It's like, no, the show ain't over with. What are you doing?
She thinks we got 8 more? Something like that, like 8 more to get to. So
yeah, so I think people are off the mark with their everybody's got an opinion, and obviously some of these opinions are
Yeah. Well, that was the episode, The Lawn Chair. If you don't know, the three of us actually do another show called Men on Everything, where we talk about like the big stories of the week. We just put one up a couple days ago, and if you're interested in seeing it, you can go to talking360.com, and you'll see the Men on Everything icon. You can click that, and it'll take you to the latest episode. So if you can give this a thumbs up, that helps a lot. It helps grow the channel. Subscribing to me means even more. Sharing it would be off the hook. We do this every week, and we appreciate you, like I said, watching, sharing, and anything positive or anything negative. You don't like it, give it a thumbs down. That's fine too. It doesn't hurt.
I'll show up at your house in a lawn chair with a shot.
Do you have a way to donate to the Men on Scandal thing? You need to put that on there, man.
Well, we do. Well, the Patreon account. If you go to Patreon. patreon.com / Tony Scott Media, you can actually become a patron of us for as little as $2.99 a month to help support the channel and show your love and support with $3 a month. It's like, it's
really to keep Tony has to buy that gray hair dye. by the bucket. So.
Tony got to pay the cable bill to get this on, so But so if you can help out that way, that would be awesome. If you could do it that way, I had a tip jar, and it was in beta with YouTube, but it's not up anymore, and it's not an option for me to put it up. So maybe they changed their mind. I don't know, but
PayPal, man, got a PayPal.
I got to pay PayPal. If you want to put something in my PayPal account to help us keep this going, TonyScottMedia@gmail.com is.
We're begging here. We're begging.
help some brothers out. So
man, we need to do a fund us account for our TV show or something.
That'd be nice. Something to think. But the thing I've noticed about the Kickstarter and GoFundMe, the whole whether it succeeds or not is based on the presentation, on how it's written, and you almost certainly have to have a video to go with it, and you got to be able to grab people. So if you go up there acting clownish, you're not gonna get a dime. But if you make sense, you may get some funding. That's what I've noticed. But
wait a minute, Tony, what we can't. We have grabbed a few people.
We have.
Don't put me on because I'm gonna act clownish.
But I mean, I think. But the difference between having people who enjoy watching your program and then asking them for money. I think people enjoy your program, but when you ask them, even for $2.99 a month, they're like, man, come on, man.
I did a Kickstarter for my children's book. I raised a negative 20.
You owe the money, man.
I owe them money. It's like, yo, damn. What happened? I got 5,000 followers. What happened?
Yeah.
So you went on Kickstarter and they started kicking your ass.
Kick rocks.
Well, and that's the thing. Well, the thing is, and I understand that people, if you can't afford $3 a month, then you shouldn't give $3 a month. I mean, you shouldn't, because we don't want you to hurt yourself. And if $3 can hurt you, then things are pretty tight, and I respect that. So, I got a message on Twitter from someone that said, how can we support you if we're broke? Well, you can support us by sharing the video.
Yeah, watch it.
And watching and sharing and telling people about us. That would be great if you could do that. So.
And thanks for keeping it real.
Yeah. Shout.
Let's put your business all out there. Go ahead.
There's a homeless guy in front of Madison Square Garden who has 2 cats.
Man.
2 black cats. Mm-hmm. And the cats have a look on their face like, what the hell is going on? There's 2 of us. I was like, wow.
Well,
I said, are you homeless, sir, or are you auditioning for America's Got Talent? I got to make a decision here. And free these cats. Free these damn cats.
Hey, he said, hey, nothing wrong with having a couple of pussies around.
Well, now, no to check language box in the. Yeah, well. All right, that's our show. I'm sorry. Appreciate you checking us out. All right. All right. In Washington, D.C. is Troy Johnson. New York City, that's Mark Clark. I'm Tony Scott in St. Louis. Thanks for watching Men on Scandal, and we'll see you next week.